let that happen.
That wasn't too bad, kid.
Pretend it's a game.
You still don't have a Sega CD? Huh? What are you waiting for, Nintendo to make one? You have seen the games, right? Wrong answer, man. Show 'em. Want to see more?
Hey folks, Crazyclimber80 here again. Time for another console review, and this of the, what I thought was pretty awesome, Sega CD, also known as the Mega CD. This was sold from 1991 to 1996, and it was a clear upgrade over the Sega Genesis. This could play CDs, and it had greater memory and much better sounds. Let's look at some technical aspects. This was launched in Japan in 91, in the US or North America in 1992, and in 1993 in Australia, the UK, Europe, and Brazil. It was an add-on to the Genesis, and it had 64 kilobytes of RAM. There were 200 some titles, probably 220 something titles. It was $300 in the US, kind of spendy. There were 2.2 million of them sold, not really that many. It had a Motorola 68000 at 12.5 megahertz processor. We're looking at the Model 1 version. There were two models, and it had a Ricoh RF5164 sound chip. This is the Model 2, released in 1993. The Sega CD or Mega CD could play game CDs, audio CDs, and CD plus Gs like karaoke discs. The Sega CD had better music than the Genesis, better sprite scaling and rotation than the Sega Genesis. There's a little switch in the bottom right corner of the Sega CD compartment that will open it up. And the CD part, or the Genesis, would slide onto the Sega CD in Model 1 or Model 2. And this was the hella expensive Sega CDX, or Multi-Mega, in 1994. And it combined the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD in one. It was a very small portable unit. It was very cool, but boy did it cost over $300. I enjoyed the hell out of it, though. The control port, or the controller ports, were near the start button at the bottom. And at the top you see the drive, or the cartridge slot for the Genesis games. And towards the bottom are the buttons that will open, rewind, fast forward, start, play, pause, stop, or reset. And there's a little digital reader that shows the track number. And this was the kind of lame Sega 32X, released in 1994 and discontinued in 96. Cost about $160. All it did was sit upon the Genesis, and it played 32-bit games. Really didn't last very long. This was a much better use of your money. This is the Sega CD backup RAM cartridge, released in Japan in 92 and the US in 94. It cost about $60. It had much more memory for games with save options like RPGs, although some big RPGs could use multiple slots on it. But it had a lot more memory. It was a great, great tool. Definitely get that if you're collecting the Sega CD. Now let's look at the boot up screens for both the Sega CD and the Mega CD, and both models. This is the US version, Model 1. I did not have Model 1, I had Model 2, and we'll look at that in a moment. And we see the sprite scaling and rotation of both the Sega logo and the Sega CD logo. They flip around, they change direction. It's kind of cool, I guess. I think Model 1's dynamics were a little more interesting than Model 2's. The music is different in Model 2. You can press Start if there's even if there's no game in the CD tray, and you'll go to a different menu. And that is where you can play your audio CDs if you want. And you get this menu here. You can also look at the saved games that you have. See, there's play, pause, stop, search, etc. And there's the eject button. And here is option. And this tells you about the memory that you have left. And we'll get out of that. You can select to format, and I believe that is erase whatever saved games you have. And this is the typical screen on the US version that leads into the game. And this time we're going to look at the US Model 2 opening. And yeah, this is the one that I had. This is a little less dynamic. There's a little bit of movement of the Sega CD logo and the Sega logo, but not as interesting as in Model 1. Yeah, anytime you press the start button, if you have a disc in, or a game disc in the tray, then it'll go right to the game. Otherwise, it'll go to the other menu. We're going to also look at the European versions, Model 1 and Model 2 openings, and the Japan Model 1 and Model 2 openings. We're not going to look at the whole thing. We're going to skip forward a little bit here. Just a little bit of look at the game showing off its, or the model showing off its sprite scaling and rotation. Colors got a little bit weird on this on this here. Sorry about that, but that's what that looks like there. And now we're going to look at Euro Mega CD Open for Model 1. Yeah, the music's totally different, but it also shows sprite scaling and rotation. That wasn't quite possible like that in the Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. And we'll also look at the this screen, when you don't have a game disc in. Here's where you can select the different tracks of an audio CD that you have in there. You can also use this screen to listen to different tracks on your Sega CD game that you have in there, or Mega CD game in there. Sometimes it will have several tracks, and sometimes it won't have any. And not all the tracks will play music every time. Sometimes there's just no sound. We will also look at what was it? The Japanese versions, and there will be Japanese text. You're not likely to be able to read it unless you know Japanese. Here's the Euro Mega CD second model opening here. Interesting artwork in the background. And again, the Sega logo and Mega CD logo rotate and scale around and whatnot. I like the gold disc there. I just wanted to show you what each opening looks like. There was also a Japanese version of the Sega CD-X called the Wonder Mega, and it has its own opening. It's not very special. And this is Japan Mega CD Model 1 opening. See, there's the Japanese text at the bottom. Start button, something or other, kudasai. Basically means, please press start button. I know a little bit of Japanese. A very little bit of it. And this time we see the Mega CD logo flipping around, but not the Sega logo. And that the graphics got screwed up on that. Sorry. But that's kind of what the non-game CD menu looks like there. That's a little clearer. But we will also look at the Japan Mega CD opening for the second model. And there's Sonic there. Unfortunately, he doesn't move around or anything. It says Sega Sonic in the bottom right corner. Shows Mega CD 2 logo flipping around and Sega logo moving around too. And then we'll also see the alternate screen right there. But I generally wanted to show you these different openings, just for grins and giggles. And then, like I said, there was also a Wonder Mega, which was basically the Sega CD-X in Japan. And it has that same type of music as we just heard, and it shows that as that logo there as its opening. And it Wonder Mega flips around and stuff. And there is your typical Sega CD game in a tall jewel case. And that is the Sega CD's biggest seller, Sonic CD. And the games also sometimes came in smaller cases, like that one, and that is a Sega Arcade Classics compilation. Sometimes the game boxes would have more than one game in them. And there is a typical Sega CD game. Now let's look at some of the system's strengths. Sprite scaling and rotation, and this is Batman Returns, one of the more lauded titles for the system. Very nice looking sprite scaling and rotation, or at least a lot better than on the Genesis. And this is the bonus stage for Sonic CD. Keep in mind that this was pretty impressive for its time. And nowadays it might be pretty primitive looking. And this is Soul Star. I love to look at the planet in the background moving about and getting closer. Just very well done for its time. And this also garnered a lot of acclaim from gamers at the time. And you'll eventually go across a planet's surface. A number of these games that we're looking at will be on my 20 from list. And the soundtracks were very, very good. The Sega CD had great music capabilities. And this is a rather jazzed up version of the arcade Final Fight score. This was definitely one of the best titles on the system. I used to have this. This is a great, great game. And this is LUNAR, the Silver Star, and it had a great soundtrack to it. Yeah, the Sega CD definitely had superior music over the Sega Genesis. And here is Sonic CD. And one of the many great tracks. And again, this is the Sega CD's top seller, Sonic CD. Really impressive music. And then this is Lords of Thunder with its hard rock drive-in soundtracks. Really worlds better than what the Genesis could offer. And here's Echo the Dolphin. It had a very calming and sometimes haunting soundtrack to it. Yeah, the Genesis was where the, Echo the Dolphin started, but it was much more interesting on the Sega CD. And the Sega CD had great anime scenes. It was really awesome.
Huh? Ronnie, where have you been?
Well, I got hungry, so I went to the mini-mart to get something to eat. At first I thought I wanted a burger.
This is KEIO Flying Squadron.
You were supposed to be guarding the key. You saved it in front of our ancestors. Shame on you.
And this is LUNAR Eternal Blue. This is the sequel to LUNAR, which is it's kind of unrelated. Really gross. Really cool animated sequences. And this is the awesome Road Avenger. God, I love this game. This is a reactionary game like Dragon Slayer, but it was really pretty cool. This is the US version. The Japanese one had a different song, but I like this one better. Really cool. And this is POPFUL MAIL. This had a cool anime series of sequences. Anime was really starting to get big in the US, and this is Sonic CD's animated opening here. I like this song a lot too, Sonic Boom. This was just mind-blowing for its time. It's so cool. And there were some good full-motion video games. This is Night Trap.
Scat Mission 230.
There were way too many of them, though, and some of them were just stupid.
Spending the night at the old Lakeshore Winery house of Mr. and Mrs. Victor Martin.
Night Trap was a lot of fun for me. It's kind of like a cheesy 80s horror movie. It garnered some controversy for no apparent reason. It was not that gory. And then this is Sewer Shark. This was the pack-in title in the US, I believe. Great game, though. And there were also a lot of great RPGs. There's LUNAR the Silver Star, LUNAR Eternal Blue, Dark Wizard, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Eye of the Beholder, Vi, Shining Force CD, POPFUL MAIL. Even though the Sega CD was kind of grainy in its video presentation, or very grainy, I guess I should say, and it had way too many full motion video titles, I think it was a very strong system, and it should have been a lot better than its meager sales reflected. But I've got some final thoughts on the Sega CD. One, it was originally created to compete, at least in Japan, with the TurboGrafx 16 add-on, the CD-ROM 2, which was released by NEC in 1988 and was the very first home game console with CD games.
What are you waiting for, Nintendo to make one?
And yes, there was an actual plan in place to have the Super Nintendo or the Super Famicom in Japan to have a CD game player add-on, and they were going to partner with Sony over it. But that idea was eventually scrapped, and Sony went on to create the PlayStation. But that was my look at the Sega CD, also known as the Mega CD. And one of these days soon, I will hope to have a 20 From series, where I detail what I think is the top 20 games for the Sega CD, or Mega CD. Hope to see you then, and I might have some other things in the future before that. Take it easy, everybody, and happy Halloween. Bye-bye, folks.